Welcome to Mindfulness, a space where we explore the practice of living deeply, inspired by the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, the wisdom of the Buddha, and the guidance of great American meditation teachers who have shaped the mindfulness movement across the West. Do you know the average American spends more than 6 hours a day staring at screens, but less than 6 minutes looking inside their own mind? Pause. Let that sink in. Because here's the truth. Our world has become so loud, so fast, so overwhelming that silence itself feels almost unnatural. We live in an age where people know more about TikTok trends than their own breath. And while we pride ourselves on being connected, the irony is brutal. Most of us feel more disconnected from ourselves than ever before. The hidden crisis isn't just stress or burnout or the endless chase for success. The real crisis is spiritual. Spiritually awakened people, the ones who live with presence, compassion, and deep awareness, are quietly disappearing from society. Not because they've vanished, but because our culture has pushed them to the margins, drowning their voices in the noise of consumerism and constant distraction. Think about it. How often do you actually meet someone who radiates calm the moment they walk into the room? Someone who listens deeply, speaks with kindness, and seems unshaken by the chaos around them. People like this exist. I've met them in monasteries, in meditation centers, even in the middle of bustling cities. But they are rare, and they are becoming rarer. Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, "The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence." Yet presence is exactly what modern life steals from us. Every notification, every anxious thought, every restless urge to do more, buy more, achieve more. It's like a thief breaking into the house of your soul day after day until there's nothing left but exhaustion. Here's the part that hurts. Most people don't even realize it's happening. We've normalized distraction so much that stillness feels uncomfortable, even threatening. Try sitting quietly with no phone, no music, no TV, just you and your breath for 5 minutes. For many, it feels unbearable. But here's where the story shifts. Because hidden inside this crisis is also an invitation. The silence we avoid so fiercely is the same silence that holds the key to peace. The teachings of the Buddha, echoed by Thich Nhat Hanh and by American teachers like Jon Kabat-Zinn and Jack Kornfield, remind us that mindfulness is not about escaping society. It's about rediscovering ourselves within it. It's about learning to stop running, stop numbing, and start living again. And maybe, just maybe, that's why spiritually awakened people aren't really disappearing. They're stepping back. They're choosing to live differently, away from the noise, in order to protect the flame of awareness inside them. They're not gone. They're waiting. Waiting for us to slow down enough to notice. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt alive? Not entertained, not distracted, not productive, but fully alive, with every cell in your body awake to this moment. Take a breath, because this journey we're about to walk together might just be the beginning of remembering. When people talk about stress, they usually point fingers at the obvious culprits: a demanding boss, financial pressure, relationship struggles, or the never-ending stream of responsibilities. But the truth is, none of these are the real enemy. The real enemy is invisible. It's not your job, not your family, not even your bank account. The real enemy is the restless mind that never stops talking. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, the sun barely rising. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind has already started sprinting. I need to answer those emails. Did I forget to pay that bill? What if today goes badly? What if I fail? It's like having a wild horse inside your head, thrashing, kicking, dragging you around from one thought to another. You don't control it. It controls you. And here's the scary part. Most of us don't even realize it. Neuroscientists now tell us the average person has between 60,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day. That's almost one thought every second. But here's the kicker. About 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. The The same worries, the same stories, the same fears, circling like hamsters on a wheel. No wonder people feel exhausted before the day even begins. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The mind can go in 1,000 directions, but on this beautiful path, I walk in peace. With each step, the wind blows. With each step, a flower blooms." His words remind us that peace is not found by eliminating responsibilities or escaping the world. It's found by taming the restless horse inside. But taming the mind is easier said than done. Let's be honest. If you live in the US today, your mind is under attack almost 24/7. Every advertisement, every push notification, every breaking news headline is designed to hijack your attention. Companies spend billions studying how to keep you scrolling, watching, consuming. Your mind has become the battlefield where corporations and algorithms fight for dominance. Think about it. You're not just carrying your phone. Your phone is carrying you. This is why spiritually awakened people seem to disappear. They're not hiding in caves or monasteries. They're simply choosing not to play this game. They step back from the noise because they've realized the real enemy isn't out there. It's in here, in the constant chatter of the mind. Jack Kornfield, one of America's most beloved meditation teachers, tells a story of a student who came to him overwhelmed by anxiety. The student said, "I can't stand my thoughts. They're too loud, too negative, too fast." Kornfield smiled and said, "You don't have to believe everything you think." That line hit me like lightning when I first heard it, because for most of us, thoughts feel like reality. If the mind says, "You're not good enough," we believe it. If the mind says, "You'll never succeed," we listen. But the truth is, the mind is just noisy. It's like a roommate that never shuts up, sometimes helpful, often annoying, and usually wrong. Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, put it this way: "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." That restless mind, that hidden enemy, it's not going away. But you can learn to see it clearly, ride its currents without drowning, and eventually guide it towards stillness. Science backs this up. Studies from Harvard show that people's minds wander nearly 47% of the time. That means we spend almost half our lives lost in thought, not present, not here. And the kicker? The same research found that when people's minds wander, they're significantly less happy, no matter what they're thinking about. So happiness isn't about changing our circumstances. It's about changing our relationship with the mind. Here's a personal story. A few years ago, I was in the middle of one of the busiest seasons of my life. Projects piling up, emails exploding, family issues weighing heavy on my chest. One night, I found myself lying in bed at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing like a Formula One car. What if this doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if tomorrow is a disaster? I felt trapped inside my own skull. That night, out of desperation, I remembered something I had read from Thich Nhat Hanh. Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. So I tried it. I put my hand on my belly and just breathed. In, out, in, out. At first, the thoughts screamed even louder, like children fighting for attention. But slowly, after 5 minutes, maybe 10, something shifted. The horse inside my head stopped thrashing. It didn't disappear, but it calmed enough for me to feel a taste of peace. And that tiny moment of quiet was life-changing. Because I realized the enemy wasn't my stress. The enemy wasn't my work. The enemy wasn't my life situation. The enemy was my own untamed mind. That's when everything began to change. Here's the paradox. Our culture trains us to look outside for solutions, new apps, new productivity hacks, new ways to control the chaos around us. But the teachings of the Buddha, the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh, and the practices shared by American meditation masters all point to the same truth. Freedom begins inside. The hidden enemy is not life itself. It's the way we meet life with a restless, unconscious mind. And once you see that clearly, you can never unsee it. So the question is, what do we do about it? Do we keep letting the wild horse drag us around every day, yanking us from worry to worry, distraction to distraction? Or do we learn to hold the reins? That choice, the choice to face the hidden enemy with awareness, becomes the turning point, and that's exactly where we're going next. Every story of transformation has a breaking point, a moment when the weight becomes too heavy, the noise too loud, the emptiness too unbearable. And often, it's in that exact moment when we feel most lost that the path of mindfulness appears. For me, that moment came unexpectedly. I remember sitting in my car in the parking lot of a grocery store, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I wasn't crying, but my chest was tight, my breath shallow. I had just finished a long week of work, endless meetings, deadlines that seemed impossible to meet, and at home, family stress waiting like another mountain to climb. The radio was on, voices chattering about politics and stock markets, but I wasn't hearing any of it. My mind was louder than everything else. And then, silence. Not outside silence. The traffic still roared, people still walked by, but a sudden, startling silence inside. It was as if my mind, exhausted from its own noise, paused for just a second. And in that pause, I remembered something I had once heard from John Kabat-Zinn. Wherever you go, there you are. At first, those words had sounded like a clever play on language, but in that parking lot, they landed like truth. I realized I had been running my whole life, chasing deadlines, chasing approval, chasing some future moment when everything would finally feel okay. And yet, no matter where I ran, there I was, carrying the same restless mind, the same worries, the same endless hunger for more. That realization shook me, because if the running never ends, what am I really chasing? This was my turning point. Not because everything magically changed in that moment. It didn't. I still had bills to pay, work to finish, people to care for. But I finally understood something simple, something I had overlooked for years. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything outside. It comes from waking up inside. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke about coming home to yourself. He said, breathing in, I arrive. What breathing out, I am home. For so long, I had been living like a stranger inside my own life, always leaning forward into the future, always trying to outrun the present. That afternoon in the car, I felt the faintest whisper of homecoming. I started small. That night, instead of numbing out with TV or scrolling endlessly on my phone, I sat quietly for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. I set a timer, closed my eyes, and followed my breath. My mind resisted with everything it had. This is boring. You're wasting time. You should be doing something productive. But for the first time in years, I didn't argue. I just breathed. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And then a surprising thing happened. My thoughts didn't stop, but I saw them differently. They were like clouds drifting across the sky, and I didn't have to chase them. I could just watch. That was my first taste of mindfulness. Many people share similar turning points. A busy executive, overwhelmed by burnout, discovers meditation during a weekend retreat and realizes success without presence feels like failure. A young mother, drowning in stress, takes a mindfulness course and learns how to breathe with her child instead of snapping in anger. A soldier, haunted by trauma, finds healing in a mindfulness practice for veterans. These stories are everywhere. They're not about escaping life, but about learning to meet life differently. Jack Kornfield tells a story of a woman who came to him after her husband had passed away. She was crushed by grief, unable to imagine how to live without him. Through months of gentle meditation practice, she slowly learned to sit with her pain, to breathe with her tears. One day she said to him, "The grief is still here, but it no longer destroys me. It has become part of my love." That's what mindfulness does. It doesn't erase our struggles. It transforms our relationship with them. And yet, in American culture, mindfulness often gets reduced to a productivity hack. Meditate so you can focus better at work. Practice mindfulness to be more efficient. While those benefits are real, they miss the deeper point. The real turning point isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's about remembering that you are not just a machine built to produce. You are a human being, alive in this moment, capable of love, compassion, and deep peace. Thich Nhat Hanh used to tell a simple story about washing the dishes. Most people, he said, wash dishes in order to finish quickly and move on to the next thing. But if you can wash the dishes just to wash the dishes, feeling the warm water, hearing the clink of the bowls, breathing in and out, you discover peace even in the smallest tasks. That is mindfulness, transforming the ordinary into the sacred. I didn't understand that fully until months after my own turning point. One morning, I was making coffee before work. Normally, I'd rush through it, already half thinking about my first meeting. But that day, I paused. I listened to the drip of water, felt the warmth of the mug in my hands, smelled the rich aroma. For 2 minutes, I was simply there. Not planning, not worrying, just alive. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not because life was perfect, but because I was present. The turning point, then, isn't dramatic. It doesn't require a retreat in the mountains or a plane ticket to Asia. It often arrives quietly, in a grocery store parking lot, in a living room at midnight, in the middle of an ordinary morning. It begins with the willingness to stop running, to face the restless mind, not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a wild horse to be gently tamed. To recognize that peace is already here, waiting underneath the noise. As the Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. That sentence has been repeated for over 2,500 years, but most of us only understand it when life finally brings us to our knees. When all the running, striving, and grasping no longer works, the door of mindfulness quietly opens. And here's the beautiful part. Once you walk through that door, even just a little, you can never go back fully to the way things were. You've tasted presence. You've glimpsed home. The question then becomes, how do we nurture it? How do we keep the flame alive, even in a culture built on distraction? The answer lies in discovering a secret weapon, something so simple and so close that most of us overlook it every single day. And that's exactly where our journey continues. If someone told you there was a weapon hidden inside you, free, always available, more powerful than any technology, you might laugh. We're trained to believe power comes from the outside, money, status, connections, gadgets. But the truth is, the greatest weapon against suffering is already within us. That weapon is mindfulness. Not the watered-down version sold in corporate seminars, but the real, living practice passed down through the Buddha, carried by Thich Nhat Hanh, and translated into modern life by teachers like Jon Kabat-Zinn, Sharon Salzberg, and Jack Kornfield. The beauty of this weapon is that it's invisible. Nobody else can see it, but when you use it, everything changes. Your stress, your relationships, your sense of meaning. It doesn't cost money, it doesn't require equipment, and you don't need to believe in anything. You just need to remember what's already here. And it starts with 3 simple keys. 1. Breath is the anchor. When the storm of life rages, when your thoughts feel like a tornado pulling you in 100 directions, the breath is always there. Thich Nhat Hanh taught this again and again. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. At first glance, it seems almost childlike, too simple, too obvious. But that's the point. One of the most powerful practices is to return to the breath. Right now, as you're reading, take a slow inhale, feel your belly rise. Now exhale, slowly. Notice the body softening just a little. That's not just relaxation, it's freedom. In that moment, the wild horse of the mind pauses. You're no longer lost in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's worries. You're here. I once tried this practice during a work meeting that was spiraling out of control. Voices raised, tempers flaring, egos clashing. My chest tightened. I wanted to fight back or shut down. Instead, I silently whispered to myself, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I release. Nobody in the room noticed, but I noticed. Instead of exploding with anger, I found a tiny island of calm. And from that calm, my words came out softer, steadier. That's the power of the anchor. It doesn't stop the storm. It keeps you from being blown away. 2. Now is the only time we own. Jon Kabat-Zinn often reminds his students, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Surfing, of course, only happens in the present moment. You can't surf yesterday. You can't surf tomorrow. The only wave is the one right in front of you. But here's the problem. Most of us don't live here. Our bodies are in the present, but our minds are wandering. Thinking about what we should have said in that conversation. Worrying about what might go wrong tomorrow. Harvard researchers call this the wandering mind problem. And their studies show something fascinating. The more our minds wander, the less happy we feel, even if our thoughts are pleasant. That means happiness isn't about having a perfect life. It's about showing up for the life we already have. Thich Nhat Hanh once shared a simple practice. When drinking tea, just drink tea. Don't check your phone. Don't plan your day. Don't replay that argument in your head. Just feel the warmth of the cup, the taste of the tea, the steam rising. In that small moment, the whole universe is present. I tried this one morning with coffee. Instead of gulping it down while scrolling through emails, I sat by the window, cradled the mug in both hands, and really tasted the first sip. And something shifted. My morning didn't feel like a rush toward the office. It felt like life itself, precious and complete. That's what it means when we say, now is the only time we own. Because the truth is, the past is gone, the future hasn't arrived, and the only moment we can ever truly live is this one. 3. Awareness transforms pain. The Buddha once said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. At first, that sounds harsh. How can suffering be optional when life throws real struggles at us? Loss, illness, disappointment, heartbreak. But what he meant is this, pain is part of being human. We all feel it. But suffering is what happens when we resist pain, deny it, or pile extra stories on top of it. Think about it. You stub your toe. The pain is sharp, immediate. But then the mind adds, why am I so clumsy? This always happens to me. I can't stand this. Suddenly, the suffering doubles. Mindfulness doesn't remove pain, but it transforms how we hold it. Jack Kornfield tells a story of sitting with people in deep grief. Instead of trying to fix them, he invites them to breathe, to feel the grief in the body, to notice how it changes moment by moment. Slowly, the grief softens, not because it disappears, but because it's no longer resisted. I experienced this during a season of loss in my own life. My instinct was to numb out, watch endless TV, drown in work, avoid the pain. But eventually, the avoidance hurt more than the grief itself. With guidance from a teacher, I sat down, closed my eyes, and breathed into the heaviness in my chest. Tears came. Memories came. But for the first time, I wasn't running. I was simply present with my pain. And in that presence, the pain shifted. It became less like a monster chasing me, more like a wounded child needing care. That awareness didn't erase my sadness, but it gave me compassion for myself, for the situation, for life itself. This is the secret weapon. Awareness transforms pain. Why this matters. These 3 keys. Breath as the anchor, now is the only time. Awareness as transformation. Sound simple, and they are. But don't mistake simple for shallow. They are the heart of every great spiritual tradition. Thich Nhat Hanh taught them in his Plum Village retreats. Jon Kabat-Zinn built an entire medical program around them. Sharon Salzberg uses them to teach loving-kindness meditation. Jack Kornfield brings them into therapy and healing work. And thousands of people across America have transformed their lives by practicing them in ordinary moments. During traffic, while cooking dinner, before a difficult conversation. The real secret isn't discovering something new. It's remembering what's been here all along. Your breath has been with you since the day you were born. The present moment has never left you. Awareness has always been your companion. But we forget. We get lost in the noise, the chase, the endless cycle of when I get there, then I'll be happy. Mindfulness is simply the act of remembering. And once you remember, even for 10 seconds, you see that the greatest power isn't outside. It's already alive inside you. This secret weapon doesn't just protect you from stress. It opens you to joy. It allows you to see beauty in the ordinary, to connect with people more deeply, to walk through life with a steadier heart. It's what allows spiritually awakened people to thrive, even in a world that seems determined to drown them out. And the best part? You don't have to take anyone's word for it. You can test it for yourself right now, which brings us to the next step, the mini experience. We've talked about mindfulness as a secret weapon, a practice that can transform how we meet life's storms. But here's the challenge. Words are not enough. You can read books, listen to talks, even nod along to everything Thich Nhat Hanh, John Kabat-Zinn, or Jack Kornfield say, and still not understand until you try it for yourself. Mindfulness is experiential. It's like describing the taste of chocolate. I can say it's sweet, smooth, slightly bitter, deeply satisfying. But until you put a square on your tongue, you won't really know. So let's try something together. Right now. You don't need incense, a cushion, or a quiet mountaintop. You don't even need to close your eyes if you don't want to. All you need is yourself, your body, and the willingness to pause for a minute. A 1-minute practice. Sit comfortably. Feel your feet on the floor. Gently straighten your spine. Not rigid, just alert. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. If not, soften your gaze. Now take a slow breath in through your nose. Feel the air fill your lungs, your belly rising. Exhale slowly through your mouth. Feel the body release, soften. Again, breathe in. Notice the coolness of the air entering. Breathe out, notice the warmth leaving. For the next few breaths, simply follow this rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. When your mind wanders, and it will, just smile at it gently, like noticing a puppy running off. No judgment, no frustration. Simply bring your attention back to the breath. Now pause. Notice, how do you feel? Did your mind grow quieter, even for just 10 seconds? Did your body soften a little? Did you feel, even briefly, that you were actually here instead of lost in thought? That's mindfulness. Not an abstract idea, not a philosophy, but a lived experience. Why this tiny practice matters. You might be thinking, that's it? Just breathing for a minute? Yes and no. Yes, that's the practice. But no, it's not just breathing. When you took that breath, you reclaimed your attention. You stepped out of autopilot. You interrupted the restless cycle of the mind and created space. That space is everything. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. In those 60 seconds, you dropped anchor. You reminded yourself that you are not your thoughts, not your stress, not your to-do list. You are here, alive, breathing. Neuroscientists have studied this. Even a single minute of mindful breathing can reduce activity in the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for mind wandering and self-criticism. That means less mental noise, more presence. Over time, short practices like this literally rewire the brain, strengthening areas linked to focus, emotional regulation, and compassion. The proof of concept. When I first tried mindfulness years ago, I didn't believe it could work. My mind was too restless, too noisy. I thought meditation was for monks or people with way more patience than me. But one day, during a mindfulness workshop, the teacher, an American student of Thich Nhat Hanh, invited us to a 1-minute breathing exercise, almost exactly like what we just did. I rolled my eyes, but I tried. For 60 seconds, I breathed. And when the bell rang, something inside me shifted. The room hadn't changed, my problems hadn't disappeared, but my relationship to them felt lighter. The weight on my chest wasn't crushing me anymore. That 1 minute was enough proof. I thought, if 1 minute can do this, what could happen if I practiced every day? That's the invitation of mindfulness. Not to escape, not to suppress, but to transform your relationship with life one breath at a time. Everyday mini experiences. You don't need to sit cross-legged in silence to practice. You can turn ordinary moments into mindfulness experiments. At a red light, instead of reaching for your phone, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel the steering wheel, the pause in motion. Before answering the phone, let it ring once more. Inhale, exhale, then pick up with presence. While washing dishes, notice the warmth of the water, the texture of the soap bubbles, the simple rhythm of cleaning. When emotions rise, anger, sadness, fear, don't fight them. Place a hand on your heart, breathe, and say silently, "Hello, my friend. I see you." Each mini experience is like a drop of water. One drop seems small, but over days, weeks, years, those drops fill the well of awareness that can sustain you through storms. Jack Kornfield puts it beautifully. In the end, just 3 things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, how well we have learned to let go. These small practices help us live better, love deeper, and let go more gracefully. Facing skepticism. Some people say, this is too simple to matter. But look closely. Our culture worships complexity. We think solutions must be high-tech, expensive, or dramatic. Yet the deepest truths are simple. Breathing is simple. Presence is simple. But simple does not mean easy. The challenge is remembering. That's why we practice. That's why Thich Nhat Hanh called mindfulness a way of life, not just an exercise. Because the more we practice in small doses, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, mindfulness is not something you do, it's how you live. The ripple effect. Here's the most beautiful part. When you practice even a tiny moment of mindfulness, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. Think of the last time someone truly listened to you, without interrupting, without checking their phone, just being fully there. How did it feel? Probably like water in the desert. That's the ripple. When you're mindful, your presence nourishes others. You speak with more kindness, you listen with more patience, you love with more depth. Thich Nhat Hanh called this interbeing, the truth that our practice doesn't belong only to us. It belongs to the whole community, to the world. I remember visiting a mindfulness retreat led by one of Thich Nhat Hanh's students in California. The most striking thing wasn't the silence of meditation. It was how people smiled at each other in the dining hall, how they walked slowly between trees, how they washed their dishes with care. Those mini experiences created an atmosphere of peace so strong that even newcomers felt it instantly. That's the power of a single breath, multiplied by many people. Your turn. So here's my challenge for you. Before moving on to the next part of this journey, pause. Right now, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel them fully. Then ask yourself, if I could feel this much calmer in 1 minute, what would happen if I practiced 5 minutes? 10? What would my life look like if I brought this awareness into my mornings, my relationships, my work? That's not theory. That's the beginning of transformation. Because if you've made it this far, you've already tasted mindfulness. You've tested it. You've seen that it works, even in tiny doses. And if 1 minute can shift your state, imagine what a daily practice could do for your entire life. Which leads us to the next step, the invitation. By now, you've tasted it. Just 1 breath, 1 pause, 1 mindful moment, and you felt the shift. Maybe it was subtle, like a quiet softening in the body. Maybe it was profound, like realizing you've been carrying a weight you didn't know was there. Whatever your experience, that tiny glimpse is proof. Proof that mindfulness isn't a theory or a philosophy tucked away in old books. It's real. It works. And it's available to you right now, wherever you are. But here's the question. What if you didn't stop here? From 1 minute to a way of life. Think about it. If 1 minute of mindful breathing can calm the storm inside, even briefly, what could 5 minutes do? What could 10? What would your mornings feel like if, instead of reaching for your phone, you reached for your breath? What would your relationships feel like if, instead of reacting automatically, you paused, breathed, and responded with awareness? That's the invitation of mindfulness, to take what you've tasted in a single breath and expand it into a way of living. Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, every breath we take, every step we make can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. He didn't mean special breaths or steps taken in monasteries. He meant the breath you're taking right now, the step you take walking to your kitchen, the pause before answering your child. Mindfulness isn't about adding something extra to your life. It's about infusing your life, the one you already have, with presence. My own journey. I didn't come to mindfulness as a calm, disciplined person. I came broken, restless, burned out. For years, I thought the solution was to work harder, achieve more, control every detail. But the harder I pushed, the emptier I felt. When I first tried mindfulness, I almost quit. Sitting quietly with my breath felt impossible. My mind was a circus, worries swinging on trapezes, regrets juggling in the corner, what-ifs tumbling everywhere. I thought, this isn't working. I'm too restless for this. But one teacher, an American student of Thich Nhat Hanh, told me something I'll never forget. If your mind wanders 100 times and you bring it back to the breath 100 times, that is meditation. That line gave me permission to be human, to stop chasing perfection and just practice. Slowly, day by day, the circus quieted. Not completely, but enough for me to see that peace wasn't somewhere far away. It was here, in this breath, in this moment. And once I saw that, there was no turning back. Your own path. Maybe your life feels heavy right now. Stress, loss, uncertainty. Maybe you feel restless, like something is missing, but you can't put a finger on it. Or maybe life looks fine on the outside, but inside you feel numb. Mindfulness won't erase your struggles. It won't make you invincible, but it will change the way you hold them. Instead of being crushed by the weight, you'll learn to breathe with it, soften into it, even transform it. Think of it like carrying a backpack full of rocks. At first, you stumble, your back aches, you resent the burden. But with mindfulness, you stop. You open the backpack. You see each rock clearly. Grief, stress, fear, anger. And somehow, simply by seeing them with awareness, the load feels lighter. Sometimes you even realize you don't need to carry all those rocks at all. This is not just ancient wisdom. It's been proven in modern science. Programs like Jon Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction have helped tens of thousands of people in hospitals, schools, and workplaces. Veterans with PTSD, executives with burnout, parents overwhelmed with stress, they all discover the same thing. Presence is medicine. Hashar. The door is open. So here's the invitation. Don't let this be just another article you read and forget. Don't let this moment slip away. Instead, let this be the beginning of your practice. Start small. 1 minute in the morning. 3 conscious breaths before a meeting. 5 mindful steps while walking to your car. If you stumble, if you forget, if your mind wanders 1,000 times, good. That means you're practicing. That means you're alive. The Buddha once said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. The path is here. The door is open. All you need to do is take the first step." Why I created this space. That's why I created this channel. Mindfulness. Not as a lecture hall, not as a place for abstract philosophy, but as a community where we can practice together. A space to slow down, breathe, and remember what truly matters. Because I know how easy it is to get lost. I know how loud the world can be. And I also know how transformative it feels to pause, to breathe, to come home to yourself. If you've read this far, you already have the seed of mindfulness within you. My invitation is simple. Water that seed, nurture it, let it grow, and watch how it transforms not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. Imagine this. Imagine waking up tomorrow. Instead of grabbing your phone, you sit for 1 minute with your breath. You feel your body soften. You smile gently. You start the day not with stress, but with presence. Imagine walking into work or school carrying that calm inside you. People notice. They feel it. You speak more kindly. You listen more deeply. You live more fully. Imagine a life not free of challenges, but free of the constant struggle against them. A life where you can meet joy with gratitude and pain with compassion. That's not a dream. That's mindfulness. And it begins here, with you. So I ask you, will you join me? Will you take this journey, one breath at a time? Because the truth is, spiritually awakened people aren't disappearing. They're inviting us, inviting you to remember who you really are. And that invitation is open right now. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning. The alarm buzzes, that familiar sound pulling you out of sleep. Usually, the first thing you do is grab your phone, scroll through emails, check social media, maybe even get caught in breaking news before you've even taken your first step out of bed. It's automatic. And most mornings it feels like life is already rushing ahead of you before you've even had a chance to breathe. But not today. Today, you remember something. You remember what Thich Nhat Hanh once said. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. So instead of reaching for your phone, you reach for your breath. Just one breath. Then another. You notice the coolness of the air as it enters your nose, the rise of your chest, the soft release as it leaves. You place your hand gently over your heart and feel it beating. Steady, alive, here. The emails are still waiting. The noise of the world hasn't disappeared, but you've created space. You've stepped into the morning not with panic, but with presence. And that changes everything. Now imagine carrying that presence into the rest of your day. You walk into the kitchen, and instead of rushing through breakfast, you actually taste it. The sweetness of the fruit, the warmth of the tea. You smile, not because life is perfect, but because you're awake enough to notice. On your way to work, traffic builds up, the usual frustration rising in your chest. But this time you breathe. You soften your grip on the wheel. You look out the window and notice the trees swaying in the wind, the sunlight catching the glass of buildings. A small shift, but suddenly the traffic feels less like punishment and more like a pause. Later, someone speaks to you harshly. Maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your own child. Normally, you would snap back, your voice sharp, your defenses rising. But today, you pause. You breathe. You hear the pain behind their words. And instead of adding fire to fire, you answer with calm. The conflict dissolves before it even begins. This is mindfulness, not an escape from reality, but a way of transforming reality by changing the way you meet it. Thich Nhat Hanh described it beautifully. The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. But here's the catch. Most of us never give ourselves the chance to see it. We're so busy chasing the future or replaying the past that the present, the only place life actually happens, slips right through our fingers. That's why mindfulness feels so revolutionary, even though it's so simple. It doesn't give you a new life. It gives you back the one you already have. A larger vision. Now imagine what would happen if not just you, but more and more people began living this way. Imagine families starting their mornings not with shouting and rushing, but with shared silence, a smile, a mindful meal. Imagine classrooms where children learn to pause, breathe, and notice their feelings before they spill into anger. Imagine workplaces where leaders practice listening deeply, where meetings start with a breath, where decisions are guided by clarity instead of fear. This isn't fantasy. It's already happening. Across the US, mindfulness programs inspired by teachers like John Kabat-Zinn, Sharon Salzberg, and Jack Kornfield are transforming schools, hospitals, and even prisons. Studies show reduced stress, improved focus, greater resilience. But beyond the data, there's something more profound. People are rediscovering their humanity. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The way out is in." And American teachers have echoed this wisdom in ways that resonate with modern life. Sharon Salzberg calls it the revolution of the heart, learning to meet ourselves and each other with compassion. Jack Kornfield reminds us that the little things, the little moments, they aren't little. These aren't just quotes to be admired, they are roadmaps for living differently. A personal reflection. When I look back on my own path, I see two versions of myself. There's the version before mindfulness, constantly rushing, easily irritated, addicted to doing more, yet never satisfied. On the outside, I looked fine. On the inside, I felt like a hamster on a wheel, exhausted and empty. And then there's the version after I began to practice. Still imperfect, still human, still carrying worries and flaws, but lighter, softer, more present. The difference wasn't dramatic at first. It was subtle, like the way the sun slowly warms the earth at dawn. But over time, it changed everything. I still face challenges. I still feel pain. But now, I don't drown in them. I breathe with them. And that has given me a freedom I never imagined. The cinematic moment. So let me leave you with this image. It's evening now. You're sitting outside, maybe on your porch, maybe in a park. The sky is painted in shades of purple and gold as the sun sets. For once, you're not scrolling through your phone or thinking about tomorrow's to-do list. You're just sitting, breathing, watching. And in that moment, life feels enough. Not because it's perfect, but because you are here, fully alive, fully awake, fully present. That's not just a pretty picture. That's possible. That's mindfulness. And this is why I created Mindfulness, this channel, this community, to remind us all that presence is not reserved for monks or retreats. It belongs to each of us, right here, right now. To practice together, to remember together, to live more deeply, more compassionately, more fully together. So here's the invitation. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, try it. Don't grab your phone right away. Don't dive into stress. Just take one mindful breath, smile, and start your day from a place of peace. Imagine what your life could feel like if you practiced that not once, but every day. Imagine how your relationships, your work, your health, your sense of purpose would shift. That's not a dream. That's the path. That's the invitation waiting for you. And all it takes is one breath to begin.